right, hello, and welcome back to Letters from Camp, a production of the Camp Winoxet Alumni Association. Today we have two very special guests with us. We have Gary and Ben Shepard. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent.
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be here.
All right, excellent. So we like to start with kind of your camp stories. So Gary, I guess we can start with you and maybe kind of go over, when you first came to camp, what years you were camper, staff, all that type of stuff.
Sure. I'm older than I look. My first year as a camper was 1975. And then I was a CIT in 79. And then I worked on staff in 80, 81, 82, 83 in various positions, including Scoutcraft staff, nature staff. I was the assistant cook 1 year, and then I was the nature director for 2 years. I then took a couple of years off during the dark ages and came back in 1986, and I was the program director in 1986. I did come back another year too. I think it was 91 or 92. I was the CIT director. I had some time and came back and helped out in that year. But I've never really not been involved with camp since then. I was on the camp committee. I was the camp committee chairman for a number of years. And of course, I've been on the executive board for the council, for National Valley Council, for many years. And so I've basically been involved with Camp Winoxet ever since 1975.
Wow. How about you, Ben?
Well, it all started for me way back when I was a little Cub Scout when I think it was a Weeblo at a Blue and Gold banquet, and this guy came up with an OA sash on and he said, "Hey, this is Winoxet, this great place." I'm like, "Oh, cool. I'll probably never go to that place, but that's cool anyway." And then a few years later, I become a Boy Scout, then COVID happens, and then 2021 was my first year as a camper. And I liked it, and I thought the experience was pretty cool. I was like, I want to come back again next year. So I came back again. I was 13 then. And then I was like, I'm becoming 14 next year, so I can become a CIT. And I was thinking I wanted to give back to that program. So I signed up for being a CIT, and I've been hooked ever since. And I'm hoping to be on staff for the 100th anniversary.
Awesome. Excellent. So Gary's, covering since 1975, what are kind of some of the changes you've seen over those decades, and what's it been like to come back as a scoutmaster with a son not only in the troop but with him being a CIT this past summer?
Boy, I'll tell you what, that's kind of two different questions.
Yes,
and I could talk for a long time on either of them. Well, let me start with some of the differences. It has changed a lot since 75. To start with, we didn't have kayaks back then. We didn't have a motorboat or the iceberg. We just had canoes and rowboats, and that was about it. There was no climbing tower. There was no cope course. In fact, there wasn't even a Macaulay Field. No shotgun range. A number of things moved around in those years. As far as buildings are concerned, Memorial Lodge didn't exist. The craft shop was a little tiny thing that's no longer there. The boathouse didn't exist. There was no Clevis toilets. The McGee Village didn't exist. And of course, the shower house was an ancient little cinder block. Well, the building is still there, but that little tiny building behind the existing shower house was the shower house. So that's a huge change. Mm-hmm. Kiowa campsite, Monadnock, Little Sioux, Rotary, Nipmunk, Chippewa, and didn't exist. I remember when all of those were built. And of course, Merrimack moved a little bit, as did Iroquois too. So big changes. But one of the biggest changes is that when I was there at first, it averaged about 100 campers a week, and now there's an average week is 200. So it's doubled in the number of campers per week, and we went from 5 weeks up to 7 weeks. So it's really a much bigger camp now than it was then. The staff is huge compared to what it was back then, and that enables the camp to offer a lot of variety in program that we weren't able to do with the smaller staff. So those are some of the big changes. As for coming back as a scoutmaster, well, I'll tell you, it's a rush to come back and see things from this side of it after having been on the staff side for a long time. But if someone asked me or told me when I was a camper or an early staffer, if they said, someday your son's going to be on staff, I think I probably would have laughed because that just didn't happen. I mean, maybe there was a camp director or a nurse at some point who might have had a kid who was on staff. But other than that, the concept of a legacy staff, I don't think really existed. And now there's a whole bunch of them. Mm-hmm. And in fact, just from 1986, there's 4 families, Tim Bradbury, Jeff Maxwell, Steve Hoff, and myself, who all have children who have been on staff. And I'll tell you, nothing pleases me more than to see him getting excited about the program. And, and I try not to, make too big of a deal about it. But I'll tell you, week 7, when I was up there with my troop this year, and they called the staff down and they sing their song at the end, and Ben is there in the front row and he's singing all those songs. And I'll tell you, man, it was a proud dad moment. Just tears in the eyes and everything. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Ben, were the things you'd maybe heard about camp growing up, or maybe heard Winox had mentioned, and then what has it been like to kind of experience for yourself?
Wow, that's a very multi-layered question. So I heard a lot of things about Winox. Again, very early on when I was a Cub Scout, I heard people talking about like what Camp Winox is, and I kind of got a little bit of like some input from older kids in my troop who said, "Oh, Camp Winox, it's whatever. You go near a mountain and you swim and scout and whatever." And I was like, okay, but conflicting information, because my old man over here, he said that he's like, you should go to Camp Winox. And a lot of leaders, a lot of people who I know, a lot of adults in my community, they said, hey, this is a great place. You need to go there. And then when I went for the first time, it was like an eye-opening experience, because I feel like it felt new, but it was also it felt very familiar, because I was when I was growing up, when I was very, very little, my dad and other always brought me up to Winoxet to go to alumni events and all that. And when I was like 9, I think I had like a name tag that said Alumni Association, even though I was like, what's Camp Winoxet, Dad? So yeah, but I've had a lot of great experiences with the Camp Winoxet, and although it felt new, it felt familiar when I first went there as a camper, and I've loved it ever since.
That's great. Gary, just to jump back to something, you said in the 70s, you mentioned the staff was a lot smaller. Was camp more about, facilitating like the troop program then than it is now? And it was kind of more troops doing their own thing and staff there to help kind of facilitate that?
I think so. And I think that was one of the things that contributed to some difficulties in the mid 80s was that the times were changing. And the program was much more Scoutmaster driven back in the old days. And the problem that we observed in the mid 80s, or one of the problems, was that while if an experienced Scoutmaster would bring his troop and he knew exactly what he wanted to do with everybody, and he organized a good program, was able to use the facilities and the resources that were available, a lot of troops are coming up with Scoutmasters who were inexperienced. They didn't really know what they needed to do. And then there was the troops that came with the rotating parent, a different parent every night. And they really missed out on a lot because there was really nobody kind of, heading up their program. And so that was why one of the things in 86 was to try to get the staff to be able to offer more options for those troops that didn't necessarily have a really thoroughly structured program. But I think also a benefit of that was the program became a lot more exciting. I think in the 60s, probably in the 70s and everything, it was a lot more basic scout skill driven, tying knots and learning the points of the compass and things like that, which may have seemed exciting in 1968 or 72. But they don't really hold up today, And so we really needed the things like the climbing towers and the shotgun ranges and a lot more exciting activities.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you've also been a camp school instructor for many years. For audience members who maybe don't know what camp school is, can you maybe explain a little bit about the camp school program?
Yeah, what National Camping School is if you're going to be a department head or one of the top people at a scout camp, such as the program director or the camp director, shooting sports director, aquatics director, you need to be certified by the Scouts BSA. And you get certified by attending a week-long intensive training session where you learn about the generals of running a scout camp, and also the specifics for your particular program area. So I was an instructor in the ecology conservation area for many, many years for the New England campus. And I really enjoyed it. And I think the thing I enjoyed most about it was that my typical student was someone who was 18, 19 years old, or is somebody who had just graduated from high school or might have been a freshman or sophomore in college. And they're obviously very committed to nature and the environment, and very eager and smart, a lot of really, really sharp people. And we would have some awesome conversations and things, and they were eager to learn. But I also kind of would do the Socratic method kind of thing. I would challenge them and ask them questions and things, because a lot of times they were sort of emotional environmentalists, like, well, we have to do this because it's the right thing. And, I would want to get them to understand that, in the real world, to sit there and say, we need to do this because it feels right, isn't going to make it happen. Whereas if you come in with hard facts and figures and can make a rational and an economic argument and, all these things, you're much more likely to get your environmental agenda across. And so I would have pretty lively discussions and things. And it was a lot of fun. And the fact that I knew that if I did a good job, I might be impacting 50,000 scouts a summer, because these people went to various camps throughout the Northeast region.
Yeah. Fun fact, the day after my high school graduation, I went to National Camp School for ecology with you as my instructor. But then the following year I went for aquatics, and that was really my camp home. But ecology was fun. We had some good field trips, and it was a good time.
So you didn't wake up with traumatic, dreams or anything after your week with me?
Nope, survived. Yep. Ben, what were the best and worst parts of being a CIT this summer?
So there are a lot of really, really cool things about being a CIT. First of all, it's kind of like being on staff. Like, without the CIT program, I would have had a great amount of difficulty getting used to being a staff member, because I only know it from the camper's perspective. And then when you shift perspective to a staff member, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, like the Wednesday barbecue. The tables don't just magically appear. CITs and other staff move all those tables. Things don't just happen like magic. They happen because staff members put in the work. So like being a CIT kind of puts me in a safe space to make mistakes, because with a staff member, you're getting paid. You have to live up to all these high ideals as a CIT. But CIT, you get that extra layer of training and information. And now that I've gone through the program, I have a lot of valuable skills that I can apply to camp and also apply to just my daily life and school and all that in general. The worst parts about being a CIT, there aren't many, but being a CIT kind of allows you to learn that being a staff member isn't all fun and games. A lot of it is fun. It's very fun, but it's hard work. It taught me that it's hard work. And whenever I'm in an area and dishes need cleaning, or there's instruction that needs doing, the paid staff will do the instruction, and the CIT, me in that day, would do the dishes or other monotonous tasks that paid staff usually delegates to the CITs. Well, now that I've done that, now that I learned that everyone does that. Not only CITs do hard work, but the entire staff works incredibly hard. And it allowed me to learn that it's a work hard, play hard kind of thing. Like, work hard during the day, play hard during the day, really just have a great time, but put your best effort into it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to move into our lightning round. So we have a couple different categories that we ask all of our guests. So first up, what is your favorite camp song?
I'm going to go with Titanic.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like Charlie on the MTA. It's a really good one.
Both good. I have not heard Titanic done well in a long time, but that is
a long time, yeah.
Yeah. How about your favorite camp skit?
I haven't seen this one in a long, long time either, but I always like the Bavarian skit.
Which goes by other names too sometimes, right?
There are probably a lot of variations of it, but that's what, when I was in camp, that's what it went by, was the Bavarian skit. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
My favorite skit, it's hard to choose one. Really, it's impossible. But if I would have to pick one, it would be We Stole Your Mail. Because in my opinion, that is a very well-written skit. that's very relatable as a camper. I really love that one.
I should add to that when I came, the first time I saw we lost your mail, I just split my gut open. And having been to so many campfires for so many years, when you see something that's that original and that funny, it doesn't happen very often. It's good skiing.
Absolutely. All right. How about your favorite place in camp?
Ooh, I'll give you two. Obviously, the bench in front of Chapel Point is awesome, but there's also a little mossy glen at the north end of the camp that I like.
I would have to go with Chapel Point also. That's probably ultimately my favorite spot, but also, like when you go down Macaulay Trail, off of the field, that's a really nice, like, I think that's the Mossy Glen you were talking about. It's like a really like woodsy, nice area. And I just really like that area because it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere without being in the middle of nowhere. Like walk halfway down that trail and like you like right as you're about to cross that river and you just get like a 360 and it looks like a postcard or something straight out of a movie. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. How about your favorite camp meal?
When they started doing the salad bar, I did backflips. I love the salad bar.
I love the salad bar at the PB&J, but the most I love is what is it? Chicken Parm Friday. I love Chicken Parm Friday. It makes me happy, and it reminds me as a camper and also as hopefully a future staff member is that it's the end of the week. It's time to have fun. Let's get ready for the next one.
Nice. Yeah, the biggest perk of being an administrator at camp is sitting at the admin table and being close to the salad bar. All right.
Guys get so many unfair advantages.
Yeah, that's true, but paid our dues.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Are there any kind of people, especially when you were, in your camper years, any particular people you looked up to, maybe a camp hero or staff member you'd like to give a shout out to?
You want to start this one?
You're throwing me under the bus now. Well, my camp hero or my camp, like the person who I looked up to was Tom Jufrey. He really, at the time, he was the nature director, and he really like was the kind of staff member that when I thought about being on staff, he's the kind of person I want to be because he was very funny. He's very hardworking, and now that I'm a staff member, I've got to or a CIT, I've got to gotten the ability to connect with him more, and it's really been a great opportunity. So yeah, Tom Jufrey, best staff member in my opinion.
Mike, my staff heroes are you and all of the other people who came after me, who managed to keep the dream alive and have kept Winaxit continuing onward and growing and improving. That means an awful lot to me, and I thank you and all the others who did that.
Well, I and my peers appreciate that. All right. Any closing thoughts? Anything we didn't get to that you wanted to mention?
I just want to talk about how I'm just really looking forward to this next camp season, 100th anniversary. I'm excited for celebrations and fun, and deeper connections with staff members and new staff members like older staff members that haven't been on staff in a little while coming back. I'm really looking forward to that. And even though it's September, I'm still like looking on the website, counting down 313 some odd days till camp starts. Come on, when's it going to start?
The only thing I can add is that, a lot of people go to Winaxit, and that's basically the only camp they've known, and they think it's a great camp and everything. But I've been to dozens of camps all over the country and seen them in action. And there are a lot of nice camps out there. There are a lot of good camps out there. But Winaxit really is special. It has a culture and an attitude that is different than most camps. And we're really lucky that we have a camp as awesome as Winaxit.
Great. Well, thank you both gentlemen for joining us. And as Ben mentioned, the 100th anniversary is next summer, and we will be posting information about some different 100th anniversary events that will be taking place throughout the year. So be on the lookout for all that information, and make sure you tune in next month to our next episode of Letters from Camp. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.